Hi everyone. Today's guest we have LaToya Germaine, who is a powerhouse in the women's entrepreneurship industry. She is a leader, connector of a vibrant community of over 90,000 members where she's helping them educate them through financial freedom and innovative business into income strategies. So she has a groundbreaking program which is called the Freedom Formula, and it's a 6-step blueprint to helping women in business and master their money, marketing, and multiple income streams. So please help me welcome LaToya Germaine.
Thank you, Christy. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, likewise. So that was a big introduction. It seems like you have a lot of amazing stuff going on. So can you kind of please just tell me what inspired you to get into the financial services industry?
Well, financial services is not necessarily what it's all about. It was really all about empowering myself and other women to be free. And when I say that, I mean, a lot of women, especially mothers, we want to have time and money freedom. We want to be able to focus on what's important to us. But the way we've been trained around money, how to make it and what to do with it, has really kept us trapped in this kind of cycle of debt slavery, corporate slavery, government slavery. And so I wanted to shift my own relationship with money and time, and to shift and to be able to help other women as well to live life on their own terms.
Yeah, that is amazing. So you have this internal inspiration that kind of drove you to get into this industry, and not just, like you said, not just financial services, but helping women in particular with that.
Yeah, actually, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and this is not the first time I've tried to do it. When I was a young mom, I was 19 years old, I wanted to stay with my kid. It was it sounds like an unusual idea, right?
Yeah, right.
I had a baby, when I was 19, and it was a lot, personally anyway, it was traumatic in a way because I was pregnant during 9/11, and then I was coming into adulthood thinking, you guys as a society expect me to separate immediately from my child,
get back to work,
and then leave her with strangers for 50 hours a week to make a little bit of money. And I had a hard time with that. So I didn't do it right away. I didn't go to work. I stayed with her as long as I could, and I tried to open businesses. At first, it was a daycare center. And then I tried self-employment as a life insurance agent. I just wanted to have control of my time and to be able to be present and active with her. But I realized, you got to pay the bills, though.
Yeah, right. We need the money too.
Right. So, I continued to go through my schooling and everything and just get a real job. And that's what I did. But throughout the years, and now that my oldest daughter's 22 and a mom on her own, it's you realize that you sacrifice what you actually want out of life in order to just chase money. And you never even catch up to it. So it's not like it's not like it feels good along the way. So I know that I'm not the only mom like that, because I know lots of women, and a lot of us are suffering in that way. Not, maybe we make good money, but you don't have time with your family. You don't have time with yourself. You frazzled running around. So I know that that's not what life is about. I have a strong sense that we're not born just to work for the Fortune 500 companies, or work for the city or the state for 50, 60 years and then maybe retire. Because another part is, if we don't understand what to do with money, we could work all this time and then have nothing to show for it.
Right.
So there's a lot at stake, and it seems like now is the time. There's been a revolution happening for the last few years, especially since COVID, when everybody's had time to reevaluate their priorities and be what am I actually doing here?
What am I doing?
Right.
I'm glad that you touched on that too. It's a lot of people work and then have nothing to show for it, right? And they sacrifice valuable moments and memories that they will never get back with their children because they were working. And then now, where is that money?
Right.
Most of them don't have it in savings or don't have it in assets. Right. So I'm glad that you did bring that up, that they're sacrificing their priorities for a corporate 500 or whatever industry.
Exactly. And what I learned, though, also in terms of why I chose financial services, though, because I know it's not the sexiest topic. You know what I mean? Nobody really wants to talk about investments. The thing is, though, the financial services industry is long overdue for a revolution. Because if you think about it, well, first of all, let me rewind a little bit. Why financial services? Do you know what's the highest paid field?
Wall Street? I don't know.
Yeah, it's financial services. So if you look up like what industry has created the most financially independent people, the most millionaires, the most billionaires, it's financial services.
Wow.
It's not tech, it's not healthcare, it's not real estate even. It's financial services.
And what aspect? Like investment, securities, like all that?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it. So even if you think about, you go to downtown in any major city, the tallest buildings are financial services buildings, right? No matter what's happening in the economy, in the world, financial services is always moving, right? Money's always moving.
Yeah.
So the thing is, who are all those financially independent people? Like, who are these millionaires and billionaires?
Yeah.
Who you think it is? It's 75% white men. And their average age is between 55 and 60 years old. Okay, so the financial services industry has been operating in a very specific way for a long time.
Yeah.
And they look for a certain kind of category of people to work in it. So traditionally, it's been recruiting white men because you kind of have to have money already.
Yeah.
And the clients, the ideal clients for financial services already have money, right?
Yeah, right.
So they're going to look for people who look like that.
Yeah.
Is that a problem though? Because we're not all a certain kind of, person, and we're not mostly 65 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got to wait 40 years to get money. Yeah.
And 20% of those financial advisors in this country are due to retire soon anyway. So there's this need for a younger, more diverse group of people to work in financial services, not only because the field has looked like that for such a long time, but also because of who they've been serving.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've already got $1 million or $2 million, maybe somebody from Goldman Sachs might call and, say, how can I help you protect and build your wealth, right?
Yeah.
But for average Americans who may be worth six figures, who's calling, who's helping to ensure what their financial situation looks like? And when you look at the data, we're not doing well overall as a country. Like people, even if you have a steady income, if you're solely dependent on that one income, and you don't have things in place to protect your family, you're like one crisis away from wipeout.
Yeah, that is very true. And like you said, nobody's calling us to help, hey, let me help protect your assets. So it seems like you're filling that void, right? And that is like pretty much your mission is to call those people and reach out and help and provide those services to them to help in that aspect.
Yep, and in a different kind of way too, because financial services has also been a pretty transactional space, right?
Yeah.
For most of us, our engagement with financial services is like deposit, withdraw, move, transfer, right?
Yeah.
It's not like educational, it's not conversational, it's not a lot of like nurturing energy in that space. It's all about moving money. And a lot of times people don't even know and understand what they have in place because they've outsourced it to the expert, right? So they're like, oh, I have a guy, I have a financial advisor, but I don't really know where my money is or what it's doing or how it works. But nobody else could care about our money more than we do. So we have to understand it, right? But a financial advisor's job is not teaching, right? So it's like, I'm happy to be in this space because of my natural, like I'm a teacher. I was a teacher by trade, but I realized like that's my calling in life is to learn and to teach. And there's a lot of women like me who's similarly, it's about digesting information for ourselves first so that we can then help spread it and empower other people. Yeah,
that is so good and true that you say that, because for you to know it and understand it and then relate to other people, and it seems what you're doing with your community, right? So you have 90,000 members, so can you talk about like more what that community is about?
So the Women's Solopreneur Networking Group is like 92,000 women at this point, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's incredible. Yep.
But they're all over the United States and Canada, solo entrepreneurs. And it's really just about how can we connect as entrepreneurs in order to succeed in all of our individual paths. And the thought behind it is that our country is built on entrepreneurship. Like it's built on independence, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at it throughout, I know at least my whole lifetime, my parents, my grandparents' lifetime, we're not really like business owners, right? There's like a few businesses that run the whole country or the whole world. And we tend to work for those companies, right? But we have to succeed in business because corporations don't have hearts. They don't necessarily care for their employees. Not to say, that they don't, but when it's time for job cuts or it's time to assess, like, do I hire AI, which, I don't need benefits or I don't have to train, in that way.
I don't have emotions.
Exactly.
Like, go.
The AI doesn't need days off. They're going to choose what makes the most money for their business, right?
Yeah.
So we have to win in business, but we're up against a gigantic force, right? It's like a David versus Goliath type of thing. So in entrepreneurship, it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and we can't win by ourselves. So when this group is all about just helping us to brainstorm and figure things out together, share ideas, and support each other through referrals by understanding one another. So it's about building genuine relationships between women in business.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I love that you have that, right? Women from all over the nation kind of collaborating together to figure out how they can all do better, right? To implement it for their kids in the future and their businesses also.
Right.
So are you helping them also creating systems for that, for their finances, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it is about that, because another thing I've learned is the difference between solo entrepreneurship and business, like real entrepreneurship. Because a lot of times when people say I own a business, what they actually mean is that I'm self-employed. So self-employment, maybe that's a step above having a job, because I'm my boss, right? I get to call the shots. I create my own schedule. But there's a lot that is similar to employment in terms of you don't have time freedom. If you're a solo entrepreneur, you're 100% responsible for every aspect of your business. It still could be very overwhelming. In fact, way more overwhelming, because there's a lot at stake and it's all on your back. And it's also still, it comes with hours. It's all about, like, you have to go lift up the gates in this, storefront. You have to make the phone calls and hire the people and fire the people and learn everything as you go. So helping women to understand that you're awesome and amazing by yourself, but that's not enough to really manifest what you want out of life, because nobody goes into business to be a slave to their own business. Right? It's like,
so keep your job then.
Right. It's like, we want to be business owners because we want to be free. And if we go in, and we're self-employed, we may have more money, we may, but then you don't have more time. And if you have more time, you probably don't have more money, right? It's like,
So you have to figure out how to balance that, right?
So it's like helping women to understand that concept, where it's like, Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, right? So like, employment and self-employment come with hours, but entrepreneurship, AKA owning systems that generate income, and assets, those are the only ways to create income that is not directly tied to hours. So that is also a huge part of relationships that I'm building within that group, to help women understand the power of teamwork and leverage,
Yeah, that is important too. And teamwork, right? I find that, like, a lot of people are just kind of like, we're solopreneur, we do it by ourselves, right? But people, like, in big successful corporations, they have partners. They're doing things with, 2 or 3 people, 10 people even, up to, however it takes, and they're doing things, collaborating. So I'm also emphasizing people more to collaborate more, work with people who have the same alignment. And it's good that you have that community, because it's like, we can't do it all alone, and we're not going to reinvent the wheel. People have already established this, so let's help each other grow, and maybe even collaborate on a business, a project, whatever it is. Just try to collaborate and teach each other more. So it's a good thing you have a community like that.
I mean, because if you think individually, we each have a set of skills, but it's limited, like, as one person. And when you mention, like, these successful business owners, like the biggest businesses, Amazon, for example, it's not one dude sending these things in the mail, right? Like,
just going around, like, let me get your Amazon.
Right, exactly. He's not driving the trucks, right? He's not putting the stuff in the packages. He's creating the task, or he created this whole model, and created the task for people to execute. But you can't do all of this stuff by yourself. You don't have to, and it doesn't make sense to try. Not to say it like that. It is great. I think solopreneurship is a step in the right direction, but if we stop there, we still are slaves to time,
Exactly. So speaking of that too, like going back to the community and everything. So how are you kind of like pushing out the education for it? Like teaching people about that you can't do it alone, the systems that they need. Like how are you getting through with education?
It's all about inviting people into the environment. And the environment is a lot bigger than me because I didn't even come up with all this stuff. Like I'm learning at the same time as I'm just inviting people to learn with me. And what I've realized is entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial mindset versus the employee mindset is the difference between self-education and formal education, like through school, right? So we all know you go to school, you get degrees, you do stuff on the surface level, you learn, you know, you read books, you do essays, right? And then you get a skill set and you get certificates in order to be able to apply so somebody else can hire you, right? So somebody else can buy your time, right? But to be an entrepreneur means you have to develop your own mind. You have to invest in yourself and you can't fake it. Like, you know, you have a job. When I was a teacher, for example, they would say, fake it till you make it. And in teaching, that kind of worked, because in front of a bunch of kids, you could just be like, you know, I'm in control. Like you could fake it, and you could even show up with no lesson plan, right? You could just pretend like you have it together, and generally it'll be fine, and you'll get paid. Right? Regardless, you're getting paid. But in entrepreneurship, you cannot fake it. Even if you get up every day, you do all the stuff, and you know, you're like, I'm making the phone calls, I'm doing these things. That doesn't mean you're going to be paid.
No, exactly.
You have to master yourself, right? So it's more about leadership skills and personal development than it is about business, really. So what it looks like is inviting women into conversations like that and into events that are talking about these topics. So whether it's online events or in-person events, we bring people together around topics like that and have experts in leadership, experts in relationship, experts in communication and mindset and, you know, manifesting, all of these types of topics. We bring them into educational experiences. So that's the real meat of it is inviting people to learn together in terms of how do I become a better version of myself.
Yeah, that's such a good point too, just mastering yourself, especially for any woman or just anyone in general coming from a W-2 world to entrepreneurship. Because, you know, W-2 mindset, you go up to work. I'm sure all of us know that's working in the W-2 world, that's like 80% of the people aren't doing anything. And then, but they're okay with just getting by. They're still getting paid. But in the business, there's no getting by. You have to outperform, you have to overperform, and you're not necessarily going to get a paycheck that day, right? You'll work, and then you'll get paid 6 months later, right? So just having that mindset and helping prepare them for that reality that like you have to really put in all this stuff in advance to get it later. And just teaching that there's no day just getting by. Like every day has to be productive, pretty much.
Right. And I think even below the productivity, I've learned that a lot of us will work hard, you know, and we'll pray and we'll wish. But the key thing that we might miss is the being underneath the doing. That's my recent, you know, one of my more recent realizations or learnings is that, because I know a lot of us have this insane work ethic, right? Like we've been working for a long time. We don't have any problem with grinding all day and like doing 50 million things, but that doesn't always equate to the results that we're looking for. And what's missing is the being part, because just because you pop up out the bed in the morning and you like go until you rest your head at night, that doesn't mean you're actually being what you say you want to be, right? So if you say we want to be wealthy and free, but each day we're getting up and we still just moving, but we're not we're not feeling wealthy or free. That's the real work, actually, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like more mindset work, and I guess like spiritual beyond with yourself, right? And you shared actually something with me, and I watched it yesterday about that, and it's one of the things I took away from it is you were the person you've been looking for. Right? Because we all sit down like waiting for like, we're working, we're just waiting for that big hit or just something big to happen. And it's like, no, it's there. It's you. You are what you've been waiting for. So just like tapping into that. So thank you for sharing that with me. And I think everybody needs to hear that. I think we'll just add the link to that in this video so that way everyone can hear that. So what you said there, just the being is I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that was like the best. That was the simplest I've ever heard it described, like the process of manifesting, which is not some like woo-woo concept. It's just the law of creation. It's how everything came to be, is that somebody had a belief that affected their state of being, and then they proceeded through the sequence of making it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. So, I mean, with that too, like, do you have any like stories or like any of like your clients, anyone that you're working with that you kind of like seen that process happen?
So definitely I've heard of hundreds of stories of women who've transformed their life through these concepts of entrepreneurship and self-mastery. One, of course, like the strongest story I could tell is my own. But before I talk about that, I have a friend who used to be a bartender, and she became self-employed and created this mobile bar business. And she's a single mom, and her bar business was amazing. Like she was making $500,000 in this mobile bar business. But she was unhappy because she'd be like, first of all, I'm never seeing my daughter because I'm at the bar till 4 in the morning. And, you know, and I'm also in a very kind of wicked environment because like I'm breaking up marriages, I'm helping alcoholics, you know what I mean? Like what am I actually contributing by making margaritas? Like I may be, you know, making a lot of money, but what's my impact on society and how do I feel as a woman? She didn't feel strong, empowered or anything. So despite making all this money, and she's like, you know, I love buying nice clothes and bags and shoes, but what's happening with my child and what's happening with my spirit? So since she came into this environment where, you know, we all are working together in a way that's more faith-based, it's more like family-oriented, it's more about teamwork, she still makes great money. She still makes 6 figures, but here it's like, it's more about empowering her daughter and showing through example, like you can do good for society and for the world, and you can still be financially independent. You just have to find the right people, the right environment, and the right platform, the right vehicle in order to do it. And I would say for myself, you know how I said in the beginning that when I started my motherhood, I always had an instinct to be present and active, but I couldn't, right? And that manifested in, you know, like most families, kind of some dysfunction going on. You know, my kids my kids are fine, but I have like 2 sets of girls. I have my older girls who are young adults now who went through traditional schooling and everything was normal with them, which means like, you know, average Americans. That's standard, what they do. You know, that's a whole other conversation. But, and I have a second set of daughters who are young, you know, preteen, you know, 9-year-old, I mean, almost 9-year-old. I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And the difference is that in the last 4 years, I've been fully present with my little girls. They're homeschooled. They're always with me in my networking, my business, my self-development. And the fulfillment that I have felt in the last few years, just being able to give them what they need to be their fullest selves, to give them space to be able to pour into them, to not have, you know, because we don't really, as parents, know what's happening with our children when we send them off into the world. I know because I was in school and I would see what's happening to people's kids, but they didn't know what's happening to their kids. So my little girls, because I have this opportunity now where I'm not tied to a clock. I don't have to ask somebody permission if my child needs me. I don't need to ask for time off. I'm with my kids all the time. Right. And so they've had a much different experience than my older girls, just because as families, the family values come from us. Like we can't learn of family values. We can't have a sense of identity as well as if we're all separated in the belly of the beast, right?
And you come home tired, you're like, just leave me alone. I want to go to bed.
Hair and baths and everybody go to sleep and do it again the next day for years and years. So that is like, I feel if I was to pass away tomorrow, like I've done what I needed to do in terms of healing from that kind of a lifestyle, because I'm able to see my children. For example, you know, Lauren, she'll be 11 next week, published books on Amazon. And speak to, you know.
Look at that, 11 publishing books.
I just published a book a few years ago, but she did one at the same time because we're working together as a family, and she's learning entrepreneurship while I'll learn entrepreneurship. And another part of it is just being able to, it's not like just because my young kids are young, you know, this only impacts them. My older daughter as well, who, you know, just had a baby in December. And the fact that I could be present with her
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
It was healing for me because like when I had her and nobody was with me, I had a, you know, it was a more struggle type of thing. And now being able to like, I don't have to worry about my income or my business. My business runs even if I'm at the hospital with my daughter having a baby, or even if I'm like, I'm hosting meetings right now, holding the baby on my chest, you know what I mean? It's no big deal. Like I couldn't teach in the classroom with a baby. And, you know what I mean? So
in the corporate world, you can't do those things. Yeah.
even my own transformation is for me the strongest story of like how does entrepreneurship and self-mastery impact our lives and the lives of the people around us.
Yeah. And that's good. And it really all comes with you. So that's why it's good that you kind of just like mastered yourself. So that way it can be a triple effect, right? Now your daughters see it, and then now your granddaughter, like it's all going to keep flowing.
Can I correct you? I haven't mastered myself yet.
Okay, right. It's still a progress.
I'm working on it every day, but it's something that is a constant thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I read a book, self-mastery.
No,
like eat every day. No, no, it's every single day.
Right, it's a progress, but it's good that you're like in that direction and you're being a leader and a mentor to everybody else who needs it, especially in an industry where it's like, it could be easy to fall in trap with like just making money and doing things that look good and sound good. And going back to your friend that was a bartender, right? It's like, what am I passionate about? What is this, you know, driving me? Like, am I really happy making margaritas? And what is it that about? And that's what like my real estate school community is about. That is, do you really want to be in real estate, or do you want to because you watch like a TV show, like I'm gonna go sell houses and be this, you know, like what is what drives you? What is your purpose? Like what are you gonna be fulfilled from when you do it? So that's important. And then like, how can I balance that with my family and just be present and actually have like, not just be doing every day and then go home at night and like, all right, hurry, take a shower, go to bed. But like, how can I really be there for my children, right? And that's something I'm focusing on preparing for when I'm a future mother too. So thank you for just highlighting those things. I think people just need to hear it more. And yeah, I do have one last question for you too. It's a surprise question from Dyer, the CEO conversation card. So if you want to read it, I'm not sure what the question is. But
When do you feel the most emotionally connected to yourself? When do I feel the most emotionally connected to myself? When I feel the most emotionally connected to myself when I'm consciously aware of my vision and my purpose. And how does that work is, like I told you, I have a vivid vision, right? I have a business plan that I've been reading every morning. And it reminds me of where I'm going. So, you know, oftentimes we move autopilot. Like even sometimes, you know, you're driving and you realize you got home and you don't even know how you got home. You don't remember making the turn. You're just like doing, right. So in order to avoid that, starting each day by reading my plan for my life, which kind of reads like a hero's journey. Like it sounds like a good story, right? You read it and you're like, ooh, this sounds good. This person sounds pretty cool. I like this. But it's me. So I'm reading like a love song to myself each morning, and it like charges me up. It like fills the battery before I start the day. And then throughout the day, as I veer off the course, because that's natural, like, you know, go through the day-to-day stuff and you fall out of it, but then bringing myself back to it through questions, right? So it's like a GPS. So when I get off track, I'll just say a question to myself, like, how can I feel even more wealthy and spread that energy right now? Or how can I feel even more free and share that energy right now? So that it just triggers me to get back on track. That's when I feel most emotionally connected to myself, when I'm conscious.
I like that. That's so true, because I think we're all just going about the day and we have like 10,000 thoughts in our head and we're just not really focused on the present or just focused on ourselves, right? Just our mental. And it's good that you read your vision, right? Because we all kind of sat down, we create our vivid vision for our life. But then if you put it to the side and you just forget about it, then what's the point of that if you don't constantly remind yourself of what the true vision for you, where you want to go?
Because you think about it, this body and personality and like the name is a vehicle, but the thing that is animating it is not the same, right? So that, you know, the thinker and the I don't even know, that's not the right word, but like it's something else that's in charge. But oftentimes we get stuck in the vehicle, and like we're behaving as if I'm the vehicle, like I'm the phone, but it's not the phone, it's the operating system, right?
It's the operator.
Right. So it's like remembering that this is not me. This is like the thing that I'm driving through this life experience to make a positive change. So it's just remembering who you are. Like you are the actual power that animates the being. You're not the being.
Right. That's good right there. I like that. I like that. That's awesome. So how can people find more about your program, more about the community that you have? Can you just tell us where they can find that?
Sure. Like, so Alignable is the platform where people can find a community, and I'll share the links so that people can just find it that way.
Drop the link in.
And on Instagram, they can find me at LaToya Tells the Truth. And that's what I do best, actually. I hope.
There we go.
And
so it's true.
so I'll just share those links to my Alignable community and my Instagram. I think those will be the best places for people to connect with me directly.
Okay, awesome. All right, so don't forget to connect with LaToya. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.